I need every single one of you watching this video right now to answer me one question with complete honesty. When was the last time you saw a beatdown so vicious, so methodical, so absolutely personal that it made you question everything you thought you knew about a wrestler's intentions? When was the last time you witnessed pure, unadulterated violence that wasn't just about winning a match, but about sending a message that echoes through every locker room, every championship division, and every corner of the wrestling universe? Because if you watched SmackDown recently and you saw what Shinsuke Nakamura did to LA Knight, and I mean really watched it, not just glanced at your phone while it happened, then you witnessed something that should have sent shockwaves through the entire industry. But here's what makes my blood boil. Here's what keeps me up at night. Here's what I genuinely cannot wrap my head around no matter how hard I try. Despite everything we just saw, despite the absolute masterclass in controlled aggression and surgical precision, despite Nakamura dismantling one of SmackDown's hottest stars like he was nothing more than a training dummy, there are still people, actual human beings with functioning eyes and working brains, who are out here claiming that Shinsuke Nakamura is washed up, that he's past his prime, that his best days are behind him, that he's just coasting on reputation and nostalgia. Are you absolutely out of your minds? Have you lost all sense of reality? Did we watch the same show, or are you living in some alternate dimension where up is down and black is white? Let me paint you a picture of what actually happened, because clearly some people need a detailed breakdown of the obvious. LA Knight, the man who's been on an absolute tear lately, the guy who has the crowd eating out of the palm of his hand every single time he picks up a microphone, the competitor who's been positioned as one of SmackDown's brightest rising stars, got systematically destroyed. Not beaten, not defeated. Destroyed. There's a massive difference between those things, and if you can't see it, then you need to go back and watch that segment again because you missed something crucial. Nakamura didn't just hit his moves and walk away. He calculated every single strike. He measured every single knee. He targeted specific body parts with the precision of a surgeon who's performed the same operation 1,000 times. This wasn't a wrestler having a good night. This was a predator playing with his food before devouring it completely. This was an artist creating a masterpiece and using another human being as his canvas. This was the King of Strong Style, reminding everyone exactly why that nickname has. Followed him from Japan to NXT to the main roster, and why it still carries weight after all these years. You want to talk about Nakamura being past his prime? Let me educate you on something real quick, because apparently wrestling history isn't being taught properly anymore. This is a man who revolutionized an entire style of wrestling in New Japan Pro Wrestling. When people talk about strong style, when they reference that particular brand of hard-hitting, stiff, realistic combat sports-influenced wrestling, Shinsuke Nakamura's name is at the top of that conversation. He didn't just participate in that style, he personified it. He became synonymous with it. His matches in NJPW are still studied by aspiring wrestlers who want to understand what it means to make every movement matter, what it takes to tell a complete story in the ring without saying a single word, how to connect with an audience on a level that transcends language barriers and cultural differences. The man held the IWGP Intercontinental Championship and elevated that title to a point where people genuinely argued it was more prestigious than the heavyweight championship. That's not hyperbole, that's historical fact. He had legendary wars with Hiroshi Tanahashi, with AJ Styles, with Kota Ibushi, with every single top talent in that company. He was the ace. He was the draw. He was the guy who people paid money specifically to see perform. When he made the jump to WWE and specifically to NXT, the entire wrestling landscape shifted on its axis. His debut at TakeOver Dallas against Sami Zayn isn't just remembered as a great match. It's studied as one of the perfect examples of how to introduce a new talent to an audience that might not be familiar with their previous work. That match told you everything you needed to know about Shinsuke Nakamura in about 20 minutes. It showed you his charisma, his in-ring ability, his presence, his understanding of pace and psychology, and most importantly, it showed you that this was someone special. This wasn't just another signing. This was the arrival of a legitimate superstar. And what did he do after that? He conquered NXT. He won the NXT Championship and defended it with pride. Then he moved to the main roster and won the Royal Rumble. Let me repeat that for the people in the back who apparently have selective memory. Shinsuke Nakamura won the Royal Rumble. He main evented WrestleMania. He's held the Intercontinental Championship. He's held the United States Championship multiple times. He's been tag team champion. This man has accomplished virtually everything there is to accomplish in WWE. His resume is impeccable. His body of work speaks for itself. But somewhere along the way, the narrative shifted. People started saying he lost his edge. Critics claimed WWE toned him down. Fans complained he wasn't the same Nakamura who dominated New Japan. And you know what? Maybe there was some truth to those criticisms at certain points. Maybe there were periods where it felt like he was operating at 70% instead of 100. Maybe creative didn't always know exactly what to do with him. Maybe he was positioned in the mid-card when he should have been main eventing. All of those things can be true while also acknowledging that talent of this caliber doesn't just disappear. Skills don't evaporate. A wrestler's fundamental ability to captivate an audience, to tell a story in the ring, to make people believe that what they're watching matters, that doesn't just vanish into thin air. What we're seeing now isn't a comeback story. It's not a resurgence or a redemption arc. What we're witnessing is Shinsuke Nakamura remembering who he is, deciding that he's done playing nice, and unleashing the version of himself that made him a legend in the first place. That LA Knight beatdown was a declaration of intent. It was Nakamura looking at the entire roster and saying without words that the games are over, the politeness is done, and anyone who stands in his way is going to get hurt. LA Knight wasn't chosen randomly. He's young, he's hungry, he's over with the crowd, he represents the new generation of WWE superstars. By targeting him specifically, by brutalizing him in front of the world, Nakamura sent a very specific message. Youth doesn't intimidate him. Popularity doesn't concern him. Momentum doesn't matter when you're standing across the ring from someone who's forgotten more about wrestling than most people will ever learn. The way he methodically broke LA Knight down wasn't just about physical damage, though there was plenty of that. It was psychological warfare. It was Nakamura getting inside Knight's head, making him doubt himself, making him wonder if he's really ready for this level of competition. That's veteran mastery. That's the work of someone who understands that wrestling is as much mental as it is physical. Every single strike Nakamura delivered in that assault had purpose. When he hits that Kinshasa, it's not just a knee to the face. It's the culmination of years of perfecting that technique, understanding the exact angle and velocity needed to make it look and feel devastating. When he locks in a submission, he's not just applying pressure, he's targeting joints and ligatures that will make his opponent remember that pain for days afterward. When he strikes, each kick and knee carries the weight of strong style behind it. That philosophy of making your offense look as realistic as possible while still keeping your opponent safe enough to work again tomorrow. That's the balance that only true masters of the craft can achieve. Too many modern wrestlers either work too soft and nothing looks believable, or they work too stiff, and they're injuring people left and right. Nakamura exists in that sweet spot where everything looks absolutely brutal. But the man's been doing this long enough that he knows exactly how much is too much. Now let's talk about what everyone should really be focused on right now, which is where this is all heading. Because Shinsuke Nakamura didn't just wake up one morning and decide to start destroying people for fun. Well, maybe he did, but the point is that actions like this in professional wrestling always have a purpose, always lead somewhere, always build towards something bigger. And right now, in the current landscape of WWE, the timing couldn't be more perfect for Nakamura to make a serious championship run. Look at the state of SmackDown's title scene. You've got champions who've been on top for a while, contenders who are circling but haven't quite broken through yet, and a division that could use a major shakeup to keep things fresh and unpredictable. Nakamura inserting himself into that picture doesn't just make sense from a storyline perspective, it's practically necessary from a quality standpoint. Think about the United States Championship for a moment. It's a title with incredible history, a championship that's been held by legends and elevated by the right performer at the right time. Nakamura's held it before, and his previous runs with that title were memorable for different reasons. But imagine him chasing it again with this new attitude, this renewed focus, this edge that makes him feel more dangerous than ever before. Suddenly, that title scene becomes must-watch television. Every defense becomes an event. Every challenger has to bring their absolute best because they know what's waiting for them. The United States Championship has always benefited from having a strong champion who takes it seriously and treats it like it matters, and Nakamura in this mode would absolutely deliver that. But here's the thing, and this is where things get really interesting. As prestigious as the United States Championship is, as much as Nakamura could elevate that title, it almost feels like thinking too small for what we're seeing here. The way Nakamura's been carrying himself lately, the level of dominance he's been displaying, the statements he's been making, all of it points to someone who's setting their sights on the absolute pinnacle. And at the top of SmackDown, at the summit of WWE as a whole, sits the undisputed WWE Championship. That title represents the absolute best of the best. It's the championship that every wrestler dreams about holding from the moment they decide to enter this business. It's the prize that defines legacies and cements all-time great status. And Shinsuke Nakamura, with everything he's accomplished, with everything he's proven, with the level he's currently performing at, absolutely deserves to be in that conversation. Not as a feel-good nostalgia play, not as a thank you for years of service, but as a legitimate main event threat who could carry that championship and the responsibilities that come with it. Imagine the matches that opens up. Imagine Nakamura as undisputed WWE champion walking into any arena, any pay-per-view, any premium live event, and the caliber of opponents who would be lining up to challenge him. You could run Nakamura versus Cody Rhodes, a dream match between two of the most charismatic and talented performers in the entire industry, a clash of American wrestling tradition against Japanese strong-style innovation. That's a WrestleMania main event waiting to happen. You could do Nakamura versus Roman Reigns if the Tribal Chief returns, two men who've dominated their respective eras facing off with the top prize on the line. That's box office gold. You could have Nakamura versus literally anyone on that roster, and it would instantly feel important because of the gravitas he brings, because of the legitimacy he provides, because when Shinsuke Nakamura is involved in something, it automatically matters more. But beyond just the matches themselves, think about what Nakamura as champion would represent. In an era where WWE is more global than ever, where they're running premium live events all over the world, where they're trying to appeal to audiences across every continent, having a champion like Nakamura makes perfect sense. He's already a massive star in Japan, one of the biggest names to ever come from that country in wrestling. He has international credibility that you can't manufacture or fake. He brings a different energy, a different style, a different presentation than what we typically see from WWE champions. That's not a criticism of previous champions. It's an observation that variety and diversity in presentation makes the overall product better and more interesting. Wrestling shouldn't feel homogeneous. Different styles and approaches should be celebrated, and Nakamura represents something distinctly different while still being undeniably WWE. The long-term storytelling possibilities are endless. You could have him win the championship and immediately put a target on his back from every single hungry competitor who sees an opportunity. You could have former champions demanding rematches. You could have rising stars trying to make their name by taking down the king of strong style. You could have international talent specifically requesting to come to WWE for the chance to face Nakamura for that title. Every single one of those scenarios creates compelling television and potentially classic matches. And throughout all of it, Nakamura would bring that same intensity, that same focus, that same commitment to excellence that he's displaying right now. This wouldn't be a short-term ratings pop or a transitional championship reign. This would be Nakamura getting the ball and running with it, proving that he's still one of the absolute best in the world at what he does. Let's also address the elephant in the room, which is that WWE has been on an absolute roll creatively lately. The storytelling has been tighter. The character development has been stronger. The long-term planning has paid off in satisfying ways more often than not. Nakamura's current trajectory fits perfectly into that improved creative landscape. This isn't happening randomly. His matches have been building in intensity. His demeanor has been shifting gradually. The LA Knight attack was an escalation, not a sudden left turn. That's good storytelling. That's laying groundwork and building towards something. And if WWE continues on this path, if they follow through on what they're clearly setting up, then we're headed toward something special with Nakamura's championship. Aspirations. The beauty of where Nakamura is right now in his career is that He has nothing left to prove but everything left to accomplish in WWE specifically. He's already a legend. His place in wrestling history is secure regardless of what happens from this point forward. But that also means he's dangerous in a way that hungrier younger wrestlers aren't. He's not desperate for approval. He's not trying to get himself over. He's not worried about his spot on the card or his standing with management. All of that external pressure that can make wrestlers hesitate or second-guess themselves, Nakamura is completely free of it. Which means he can just go out there and be purely focused on his craft, on telling the best stories possible, on having the best matches possible, on creating moments that people will remember forever. That's a luxury that only comes with experience and established status. And it's a major reason why Nakamura right now might actually be more effective than he was even at his peak years ago. His influence on the locker room cannot be overstated either. When a talent of Nakamura's caliber and reputation decides to kick things into another gear, everyone around him has to respond. Younger wrestlers watch how he prepares, how he carries himself, how he approaches every segment and every match like it's the most important thing in the world. They learn from that. They understand that longevity in this business requires constantly evolving while staying true to who you are. Mid-card wrestlers see Nakamura operating at this level, and they realize that their position on the card isn't permanent, that they need to keep pushing and improving because veterans can still come for their spots. Main eventers recognize that competition isn't just coming from the new generation, that established stars can catch fire at any moment and become threats again. The entire roster elevates when someone like Nakamura decides it's time to climb back to the top. So where does this all lead, and more importantly, when? If WWE is paying attention, if they're recognizing what they have in current form Shinsuke Nakamura, then championship gold is inevitable. The path there will be fascinating to watch. Maybe he enters a #1 contender tournament and systematically destroys everyone in his bracket. Maybe he starts calling out the champion directly, demanding the match he knows he deserves. Maybe he inserts himself into an existing rivalry and makes it a triple threat because why should he wait in line when he's already proven himself 1,000 times over? However it happens, whenever it happens, the destination feels clear. Shinsuke Nakamura is headed for championship glory, and this time it's going to mean more than any of his previous title reigns because we're watching a master craftsman create his magnum opus in real time. This is legacy-defining stuff. This is Hall of Fame highlight reel material. This is what wrestling should be when it's firing on all cylinders. The king of strong style isn't just back. He never actually left. We just forgot to pay proper attention. And now that he has our attention again, now that he's reminded us exactly who he is and what he's capable of, the entire WWE landscape is about to be reshaped in his image. LA Knight was just the beginning. Just the opening salvo in what promises to be an absolutely legendary run. Every champion should be looking over their shoulder right now because Nakamura is coming for gold, and when he arrives, nobody is going to be able to stop him.